Perfect. Yes. So I'm going to jump in and I'm glad you joined. I feel
Sorry, I
like
had trouble getting in.
no worries. I feel like this is a hot topic. I went with the AI topic because I feel like that's all we're talking about everywhere. I do feel like AI is this, like this spaceship. It's
A little bit,
landed,
yeah.
it's landing or at least hovering over everyone. And we're all trying to understand, okay, how do we communicate with this thing? Is this
hmm
a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Depending on how you have it in your job or not determines, I think, sometimes how you think about it. So for me, like today, it's really going to be around like what are we what is our current relationship with AI? Because I think that determines a lot. And then, yes, there is bias because we are biased and it is going off of the information and the language models of existing society. And so everything that it is using to build things and provide answers and all of this is encoded in our existing society. And so if we are biased, AI will be biased. If we are somewhat destructive, AI may have certain destructive, but also if we have areas where we are good and on top of things and all of this stuff too. But the question is, what are your models pulling from? What are they
hmm
being fed with? Because that determines a lot. So I do have some articles, of course, the article that you sent me, but also just other things that I was looking up because I was like, let me see, what is the research? What does the data say? So this is specifically from this is developers, people who are more on the IT and tech side, because I don't think you can have these conversations without them because they
Mm.
are heavily involved in the coding and the development side of these things. And so this one is specifically AI hiring tools exhibit complex gender and racial biases. And
Hmm.
this is essentially 2023. Half of US companies now invest in an AI based recruiting tool. This is from USC Annenberg. Large language
Wow.
models increasingly influence who gets hired. But what happens when these algorithms, rather than humans, make the initial screening decisions? And so their research has revealed some patterns. And what they have determined is in testing this for resume screening that there are biases. And it's typically around, of course, race, of course, gender. And this is them showing you, depending on the model, female candidates receive scores 0.45 higher than otherwise identical male candidates. But it says the models award them higher regardless of race. However, males, it appears black males score lower compared to white males with identical qualifications. And then when you look at other things, I think depending on the job type, the industry, the location, it
Mhm.
starts to look like different things. But yes, this, of course, will have implications on the labor market. As a result, there's lots of ways that this information can be looked at. What's driving it, I think, is people just want to just make decisions quickly, get feedback quickly. They want to train something so that it can move through, but it's going to impact so much. So I do feel like there's more to come with this. There is also, I did look up some stuff from a law firm because they get the
Mm.
claims and the things that come out when AI is being used. And there's EEOC, which is the Equal Opportunity Commission. They look at a lot of this stuff because any of the discrimination lawsuits typically come through them. And so they have determined that, of course, AI is changing the workplace and employers need to adapt. Again, if you are going to use it, you need to be able to determine how you're going to be using it because it is
Right.
impacting jobs and everything's being automated, and if you're going to use it, you need to know what the legal ramifications are. And I do think that they're using the tools to monitor. They're monitoring it. They say it can help curb bias as well. Like I said,
Mm.
how are you using it? And so it is something that possibly it is something you can train a language model to take that into consideration. And so that is something that is also out there. But like everything, I think we're in the still early days of this. Like it's been maybe I'd say 2 3 years we've been talking about AI, and I think people now talk about it like all the time because it's now being infused into almost every application, everything that you turn around, there's AI in it. And so if you're a job candidate and you're applying for something and it's picking up on stuff, then you're some people are now using AI to create their resumes. They take their resume,
Yeah.
they take the job description, they ask AI, hey, based on this, how would you reformat my resume, or what skills should I highlight? And I've told people to try it just to see, because it has become quite sophisticated. Because a lot of what has been going on has been matching. That's a lot of what recruiting is. It's, does this person's resume, background, experience, knowledge,
Mm.
skills, abilities match what we are putting in this job description? This job description is a wish list. I always tell people that it's what we wish we could have. For this person exists and they can do all of these things would be fantastic, but we don't make people like cookies in an oven and they can just pop out with all of the things. Oftentimes, I feel like if you can get 70% of what's on that job description, then you're pretty much okay. And honestly, 70% is like a tall order because based on the research, which is very interesting. So men only need 40% of the job description they feel like they can do and they'll apply. Women, on the other
Really?
hand, yeah, women, on the other hand, we are much more discerning and more hard on ourselves. And so we feel like if we don't have almost 100% or 90% of what's
Yeah.
there, we won't even apply. And so when I coach clients, sometimes I used to tell them, like, apply. Applying is free. Applying costs you nothing. Applying doesn't mean you got the job. Applying just means,
Right.
hey, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for this. And
Hmm.
possibly if I have enough of what you need, you'll go with at least reaching out to me and having a phone call. So I find that sometimes our own bias, our own internal bias, stops us from doing what we need to do, like applying for stuff and getting out there, because it's very easy to just say, oh, it's not for me, or it's not something I feel like I can do.
Oh, oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. So that's, I think, a part of it. I do know that when you're looking at jobs and things like that, you're trying to find something that will help you stand out. I know industries can get a little hairy because people want someone in their industry with specific experience. They sometimes look for people who are on the same like types of work or the same, have worked for a competitor or something like that. But I do feel like when we're looking at AI, I feel like it's really trying to just filter everything, just like, how can I deduce this down? And so I've been hearing about Workday with AI. I've been hearing there's a variety of these applicant tracking systems and things like that. I still think people are behind the scenes looking at stuff. Now, the system might be filtering these folks to the top or saying these people have 90% of what you're looking for or look better matched or whatever. But right now, I think because this job market it's not a candidate's job market, it's an employer's job market. There's more candidates applying than there are jobs, probably. But I feel like AI is just a part of this conversation. And so apparently EOC is telling people to start to do audits to ensure that their stuff is not wonky, because New York, I think in 2023, passed the law that requires employers to conduct an audit on bias if they use AI tools, and it must be done regularly because they don't want it to have an impact on race, ethnicity, and sex. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. What I've been reading about with all of this is like either you make the effort up front and try to factor in bias, or if you're not, then you're going to be dealing with audits and possible fines, possible lawsuits, and all of those types of things. But you do need to train your people on this, and you do need to have people who know about it. I'm very much, I'd say, curious around. This is really, I think, quite telling because when you look at just AI and language models, people are looking at names. And the thing is, bias was being talked about when it was just people looking at resumes because people would go off of names and they would go off of gender. And they used to do blind studies where they would put the same qualifications on the resume, but they would change the name of the person. And if it was a man, how that resume would be perceived. If you could tell based on an ethnic sounding last name or first name, how all of these things would be perceived. And so it happens and it's happening, but I feel like with anything, it's there. You can't focus on it only because there's just, it'll drive you crazy. And you can't change anything about yourself, honestly. You're awesome, you're fine. But you definitely, I think, knowing about it is huge. And what I've noticed when you're looking at AI, it's evolving. It's evolving so quickly. I feel like we are evolving so quickly with it that the question is, where is it influencing your business and how is it impacting your business? Are you using AI at all in your day to day? Is this something that you think about?
No, yes and no. The reason that's been really top of my mind is because I wasn't very recently in a job search. And what was unusual about this time was I got a lot fewer callbacks than I normally would, which tells me that a lot of it might have been because of my name. Being what it is, it's very easy to tell that I'm a female POC. And that's not unique to my experience. Like I actually attended another webinar where it was a lot of people of color, that it was like a kind of an affinity group. And I was hearing very similar things. They were not getting the callbacks and just not even getting any sort of feedback. And this group would definitely have very I guess I would say non-typical names. So I worry that as job seekers, we're missing out on opportunities because AI is biased and the companies that are using these tools are not aware of it. They think that they're actually using these tools thinking that it provides equal opportunity when it does the exact opposite. And I think you brought up the point about how there potentially could be audits and fines, but with a lot of the dismantling of the DEI, I wonder how accountable these companies are really being held for things like this.
Yeah, I feel like EEO comes down to like people reporting things. I feel like it's still on the individual to report, and it's such a big deal to decide to report because you have to submit all of this stuff for
Mhm.
complaints, not just a email and then we're off. It's more, okay, you need to be documenting everything and being able to demonstrate why you felt like this was out of the norm or something different. And it is difficult when you have to justify your existence and your experience because you're like, I know this is happening and I know this is only happening to me. And so why now the onus is on me to have to go and knock on the door and say, hey, there's something wrong here. However, I find that, that's how we learn that something's not right or that something isn't working the way it's supposed to. But I do think that, I don't know, I feel like people right now it's so difficult to, because the pendulum with diversity, equity, inclusion has been swinging back the other way. I do feel as though your ability to articulate what is going on is huge, but I also do know that this networking thing is real. And regardless of what candidate market or employer market, the who you know and how you reach out and all of that is still a factor. And some people are more comfortable doing it than others. Some people are very much the personalities that go out. They're extroverted. They're always involved in the trade orgs. They're involved with all of the things. And so when there's a job change needed, they can tap into their network because they're already engaged. Whereas some people, they aren't really out there unless there is something going on, and then they have to fire back up that muscle to use it. And so I just want to always encourage people to not let that ever slide. I'm not saying you need to be president of the whatever or involved in raising your hand for everything, but I think being involved is how you can tilt a lot of this, because when there are so many people that apply, what I have noticed is it's the people who are highly networked and are visible and are raising their hands and are
Mm,
engaged are the people who get the callbacks, because they're already in the know, in the game, so to speak. So I just always encourage people to find at least one organization or participate in one, pick your thing that you want to be in and make an effort to be involved in it enough so that way when things happen, you have people around you who know you outside of this moment. Because when it happens, because I've been through at least 3 layoffs, terminations, downsizing, call it whatever you want. And when I didn't have a network, it felt like a scramble. And when I did have one, it wasn't, it took me less time to
right.
find the next thing. And oftentimes I was able to bounce back in better and something better because I already had a reputation. People already knew me. They already had some sense of my engagement level. So I I think when you're not relying only on the applicant tracking system, only on applying
Mm,
online, because online is you and everybody else. It's you
right.
and whoever applies. But when you're able to, like, hey, I'm a person. You've seen me, you've worked with me, I've been on a committee with you, I've been on a panel with you, or we've done some kind of initiative building together. Oh, yeah, I know so. And yeah, I'll pick up the phone and call on their behalf, or oh, I'll put in a good word for them. And the social currency factor is real. I will tell
Mm,
you that it is real. I don't want to say it doesn't exist, because it does. And as someone who worked in a recruiting capacity and would get the resumes that came through the applicant tracking system and then would get the resumes emailed to me in an attachment from a managing director, yeah.
it has more impact. Yeah, so I think you have a really good point that networking is a great way to kind of combat AI bias.
Yeah,
That's
because we have to come back to the human. This
exactly.
brings me back to the human, because I think we get caught up in the, like, the machine is going to do, the machine is going to take over, I robot, all of that. And I am not saying that is not happening. I am not saying that is not also real. However, we're not there yet. AI is not at a point in its reasoning or in its trustworthiness that you can just hand over the keys to the kingdom and put your brain in a jar and let it do what it's going to do. We're
Right.
not there yet in its development. We still are needing to have interpersonal. And I feel like there is going to get a, when on this journey, there is still going to be a part of this where this voice to voice, person to person, heart to heart, mind sharing, brainstorming, all of that, we still have to do that as human beings in order to get something going. And I just want to encourage people, if anything, the connection piece of this, the ability to be present with another person in a coffee chat or to be on a committee together in an organization where you are trying to, I don't know, do something that's relevant for your industry or relevant for your profession or whatnot. Like, that stuff is not going anywhere. I don't think that we are going to not self organize around causes and missions and purposes that we feel are relevant. How we get that information may change. how we choose to research it, how we choose to implement it, but we are still the people who need to do the thing. And
Right.
I feel like that part is not going to change.
Mm.
That part's not going to change. So when it comes to this, yes, meeting up with people, having relationships, that's not going to go anywhere. I don't think can replace that connection of catching up with somebody who you haven't seen in a long time over coffee, or hey, we're working on this, we have this event we want to put together in the next month and we need to sit down and figure out how we're going to do that. AI can give us themes. AI can help us figure out what are the 7 locations in the 10-mile radius that maybe we may want to consider. But you actually have to go to the restaurant, look at the menu, meet the owner. Like, that stuff's not going anywhere.
I agree.
Yeah. I do feel like I use AI a lot, I will say. It has not scared me yet. I think my because I'm an educator, I use it with I my first semester, this last semester, I used it with the students, and in their
Hmm.
final project, they could use it because they're going to use it. I feel like this is the new forbidden fruit. People are like, "Oh, don't use it." And people are going to do whatever they're going to do. It's a hammer. You can either use it to hammer in a nail, or you can use it to like
Something.
break glass and steal something, but it's still the same hammer. It's just who's using it and how they choose to use the tool. So for me, I've been using it in a way that has allowed me to, I use it as like a thought partner. I use it as
Hmm.
a first draft tool. I don't think it's a final draft tool, at least not in its current state. Not saying it won't get to final draft tool levels, maybe in another 3 years or so, because I feel like it's learning very quickly, or it's moving very quickly. I do enjoy when I went on a trip last year to New York for spring break, and I needed to understand New York and like where things were located. And so I asked it to plan an itinerary to see what it would say, and told it like what I like to do, what I don't like to do, the time of year that it's going to be.
Hmm.
And it came up with something that was actually not too bad. I still, of course, had to edit and amend it and verify that the information that was provided was real, but it was a good place to start. Instead of me having to do all of that initial research, it at least distilled it to something that I could work with. I've used
Hmm.
it to put in recipe ingredients,
Hmm.
say, hey, what kind of thing could I make with this? And it's come up with stuff. I use it like almost like ball. You shake the 8 ball
Yeah.
and you see what it's going to say. It feels very like, what is this thing going to do? And so until it gets to a point where it's very smart and very good, I feel like it's something to be used as a means of helping you do things that you either have a ton of steps that you're like, oh, this is going to take so much time. It
Right.
actually can move through those steps a little bit faster and give you something to start with, so you get over the anxiety of a blank page. I know sometimes starting something from scratch, if you have an idea or something that you want to do, it, oh, the blank page, there's nothing here. With it, it's something I've been using in that way. So I don't know. I think people need to just not be afraid of it, because it reminds me of the internet when we first got it,
Yes.
and everybody was scared to use the internet because they
Yes.
said it was going to steal your information and fraud, and no one's going to buy anything online. No one's going to buy clothes and shoes online. I remember this. And now people are looking for the package in 2 days on their doorstep.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, they're freaking out. And they're not even worried about whether their credit card information was transferred anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where we're at. Are you someone who's really are you using it at all in any capacity?
Very minimally, but mostly because in especially for Google searches and things like that, I am still seeing a high rate of errors and mistakes. So whatever information it comes back, I do take it with a grain of salt. But you make a good point about it. There's just so much information out there right now that AI is a great first step to distilling that information so that we can digest it and process it in the little time that we have. I probably will end up using it more and more as I move through, because you're right, it's like the internet, it's here to stay. And learning how to use it in the way that suits your purpose is the real skill. And I guess bringing it back to the AI bias in hiring, I think that's what companies really need to understand is, sure, it's a great way to distill the candidates, but there still needs to be that, like you said, the human element to review this and really make sure that it's in align with the company's values and the societal values.
Yeah, I do think so. I remember before AI was in, here's the thing, it's predictive analytics. It's been here this whole time. I think it's like the volume is turned up on it now and they're putting it
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. But I remember when I was a recruiter, I would, you have the ability to like ask questions of candidates, confirm that if it's a job that you knew driving's involved, do you have a license, a valid license? We always ask the question of, are you authorized to work in the United States? If not, what's your basically what's the parameter around your working or not? And so we have had qualifiers in the past in that way. And there's been a scoring based upon what people answer, which is an AI of sorts. It's more so like a
Mm-hmm.
qualifier, but you still could sort by date the person who most recently applied versus the person who maybe applied when the job first posted. And you can look through and see. And as someone who had to look at a lot of resumes and a lot, like there's some people, they're like just applying to everything. Like
Right.
whether they have the qualifications or not, they're just in there applying for everything because the way unemployment is set up, they just need you to show that you applied in order to get your unemployment check at the end of the week or whatever. So
Oh,
some people
mm.
would just be like
Send it up.
applying, send it out. Whether it's a job for me or not, I don't know. And you did look through a lot of stuff that you're like, what is this? This person doesn't even have the minimum requirements. And so I can understand using AI as a means of just saying, does this person have years of experience needed? Do they have the degree? Do they have the skill set? And so just that alone, if something could help you to distill the amount of candidates, because some jobs, yeah, 20, 30 people apply, and some 700 people apply for a job. And you're just like,
Wow.
yeah, it can get the more I don't say entry level it is, but when you only need to have no more than 2 years of experience, if it's an assistant position or an analyst
Mm.
role or something like that, hundreds of people can apply. When
Yeah.
we used to do the internship program, I mean, we had what 50 spots for interns and be 1,200 kids applying for 50
Wow.
spots. So it's very difficult to say in a time like with that, did I look at 1,200 resumes? No, I did not look at 1,200 resumes. But yes, it would be great to have something to help identify. But there's so many amazing students. So we would just send them a digital interview, which allowed for you to then see how they presented on camera. And some could
Mm.
say there's some kids that are better at speaking and that whole thing, and I see this with my own child. She's been doing theater for 4 years. So yeah, could she memorize some lines and deliver it and be convincing and smile and do all of that? Sure, she can. Versus the kid who's like shy, being on a camera feels overwhelming. Like, oh, how do they present on camera may not be as good. Do they have a strong resume? And these are the kinds of things when you look at reliability and factoring things in, it's very much, I think, still a people going off of whatever impressions they're getting.
Yeah.
But I do feel like for me, I'm trying to think about AI as an enhancement tool and not an elimination tool.
Mm.
Meaning it's going to take away, yes, there might be some things that will take away. However, what are the things that we'll be able to do because this tool is doing the work that nobody really liked to do?
Right.
There's certain work that it's like tedious, it's very time intensive, or very much rote. Again, that's not how you want to spend your time, especially if it's something that you don't like to do. So, wouldn't it be great if there's a tool that will do that for you so that you can focus on the higher level tasks that are much more interesting, more creative, more
Absolutely.
accretive? So, my hope is organizations start to think about it like that and not necessarily only think about how many people can we eliminate
Mm,
because this thing can do its job. Because it reminds me of the Amazon warehouses where they have the robots putting everything in boxes. But like, what happens when the robot breaks? Who has to fix the robot?
right now, hopefully still less, but
So I don't know. I feel like we're not at the place where we're just, again, handing over the keys. But my hope is that we'll be able to at least find ways to work with this tool and use it in a way that enhances our experiences and gives us more opportunity to do work that we find valuable and fulfilling, and not just take it off my plate.
right. You touched on something really interesting about getting as many as 700 candidates for a position, usually at the entry levels. Like that does speak to a lot of the news that we've been hearing that college graduates are having trouble finding jobs. Like, what are your thoughts on like how they can get, because obviously they haven't built up a network yet. And
Well,
some
we
college graduates
encourage
don't.
them. We encourage them to do that. I teach a class at USC. It's called Careers in Real Estate. My
Oh,
class is literally for them to learn how to do this. I work with getting their LinkedIn profile up to date.
hmm.
They all have access to alumni relationships. They do have
Oh,
student clubs online on campus, and their student clubs, I encourage them to take leadership positions in their student clubs so that they're able to start to develop those skills of collaborating with peers, learning how to do something. Also, they do have professional development like tours and professional development trips to New York and different places. So they do have access to a lot. And I feel like some of them, once they understand networking, they get into it and it's great. And then
hmm,
some of them, it takes a minute for them to get it because there are students who believe, I don't want to put my business out there. This is what I've heard from students about LinkedIn. Oh, I don't want to put my business out there. I'm like, what business? You just started. You don't have a business. You are trying to establish credibility.
right.
Nobody knows you right now. This is also not Instagram. This is not TikTok. This is not Facebook or wherever, or Snapchat or wherever everybody is in your
Hmm.
age group. This is your professional brand you're developing. This is how you are going to establish yourself as someone who has either a subject matter expertise or an interest in something, or tell a story about why you even wanted to major in this thing. Like,
Hmm.
people need to know something about you. And the amount of them that initially are like resistant, I don't know, and then by the end of the semester, they've warmed up. Some of them, many of them have secured an internship. Some of it came through networking with friends, family, alumni. The school does put on industry nights and things like that in order to help
Hmm.
them get involved. Most of the major trade orgs have a student membership that's at a heavily discounted rate because they know that students don't have a ton of money. Some of them will even subsidize a student if you are interested in participating. And so students do have more.
Hmm.
And I think the ones who understand the networking game of doing virtual coffee chats or meeting up with people,
Hmm.
I have met students, women, let me be specific, women students, because they understand that they're underrepresented, particularly in real estate. And they make an effort to go out and talk to people and make inroads with different orgs, and they use their social skills to sell themselves. And I have seen women walk away with 2 or 3 offers.
Wow, kudos.
Yeah, yeah, because, and I tell them this is a life skill I'm teaching them. Like, this is not just because you're trying to get your first job out of college. This is what you're going to have to do every time you want to elevate yourself.
Absolutely.
And so the networking is, I sing it like a song because I've seen it work not only for myself, but I have seen it work when people get themselves into it and start making it something that is, it's more about connecting and not about just grabbing up business cards and like, it's
Yep.
about meaningful connection. If you
Hmm.
can attend something, even if you have 4 good conversations and you connect with 4 people on LinkedIn and you walk away and you follow up with those 4 people, connect you to 2 more persons that they know,
Yep.
you've already exponentially grown your group. And so teaching them that has been such a joy because they realize, oh, this is how this works. And I'm like, yeah, this is how it works. And sometimes I feel like the students who get it are the ones who they raise their hands for stuff at work because this
Mm.
is a skill we're building. We're
Hmm.
building a skill of I can do it. I can do it. Raising my hand. And it starts doing it in your club. And then hopefully that gives you enough confidence to do it in your job because your boss will come and say, hey, I've got this really interesting project. Who wants to help me with it? Yeah, me. I'll help. And that's how you stand out. That's how you exhibit leadership skills. That's how you learn about something you didn't know already. Meet some people in the firm that you didn't know before because this project's going to get you access to doing more things. So they're not as clueless. There are some that are, but they're not as cool as you would think. I feel like because they have everything at their fingertips, if anything, the ones that are really smart, unstoppable. I've seen some
Great to
students
hear.
run small businesses off the side of the internet while going to school.
Wow.
So
Keep an eye on those.
keep an eye on those. Exactly. I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Oh, I sold masks in the pandemic. You did what? How did you do that? Oh, we just thought, okay, there's an opera. I'm like, how did you find PPE when no
Yeah.
one else could? What is happening? But it just shows if you want to do something, you can become industrious and learn how to do it. So I'm very hopeful for the future. I feel like the students that I've had an opportunity to work with, they show me on a regular basis what's possible. It's not as bad as we think it is.
Yeah.
Don't trust the news for everything.
Like they're the generation that's most comfortable with AI too. They're certainly not afraid of it.
Yes, I feel like my concern with students or younger people, the beauty of being a little older is that we learned how to do it the old fashioned way. We elementary learned how to do the thing to the point where we now are able to spot if something is right, not right, if there's a factor to be considered, if there's an alternative, if there's
Hmm.
a threat, if there's a weakness. Like, we can see those things because we've had enough experience in life. Because they are still so young and haven't had enough life experience, my concern with them is their ability to still question AI and question
Mm.
whether this
Mm.
is critically the best next step,
Mm.
because AI does spit things out and this is the answer and
Right.
this is the best option and this is what you should do. And so if you haven't had enough experience and have had enough things going sideways and stuff not working out to
Mm.
realize, is this really the best? Is there something I should be thinking about? Is there a con to this? And if you can use AI in that way to say, hey, is there something I'm not thinking about here? Is there something I'm not seeing? Is there
Mm.
a con to this, or is there an alternative solution want that I may want to consider that factors in these things? And so
Mm.
if you use it as a critical thinking thought partner, I think that can be helpful, but you still have to know the question to ask. You still have to be able to even discern, like, is this even an option for me? Is this real? And so that's my concern with the younger folks, is that they take it at face value and maybe don't question it. But I do feel like they are going to be like how we were with the internet. Like, who knows?
The wild card.
The wild card. I remember when email started and it was like, oh my gosh, an email. We don't even have to put things in the mail anymore. We can send messages back and forth. This is amazing. And now we email and we have a million of them and we're like overwhelmed with email.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But I feel like instead of thinking that it's coming for you, think about what you can do with it and how it can enhance your life and make something that you either thought was going to take longer than it was, or give you ideas for stuff. And it can even code now. That's a whole other thing. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
ever wanted to build an app, we can help you build an app. It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. This was fun. I'm trying this as a format. I feel like it's very organic and just talking and going through it. I do feel like it's going to catch something. So if there's any other topics, let me know because I'm down.
I,
And this has been fantastic. So thank you.
yeah. It's been great talking to you.
All right. Bye.
Take care.